Hi friends, it's been a couple days since I made a video. Just kind of feeling uninspired. I wasn't really quite sure what to talk about. And so I thought I'd just tell you what's happening. There's not a lot happening. We're getting through every day. Every day is getting a little bit better. I think I talked a little bit in one of my last videos about having a parent come in. And I can't tell you what a world of difference it has made to have this mom coming in every day, working with these kids. At least I feel like they go home like having something really productive done during the day. I'm super thankful. I have never been one in almost 30 years. I've never been someone to have a parent volunteer or parent volunteers coming in on the regular. It was usually just party days or whatever. But I am glad I took the plunge, let me tell you. As I alluded to, or I said, I've never taught gen ed first grade. So I've never had kids who couldn't read. I've never really had kids who can't speak English. That's a lie. When in like my third year of teaching or so, I taught an ESOL class, but it was an ESOL class and it was all ESOL students. And this is like 20 something years ago. It was very different. And I had a curriculum and it was specifically designed to teach kids English. And my whole job was to like teach the kids English. So it was a very different situation. And I only did that for 1 year. You want to know what else I've done? Maybe we could talk about that. Okay, here's what else I've done. It's kind of fun. My first year of teaching, let's go back. My student teaching, the person I was supposed to student teach with, got a job in the district. So she left like 2 days before I showed up. And so they put me with a teacher who, oh, okay, you know what? This is going to be one whole video, just this, because this was an experience. So I was supposed to be with someone else and she left. So then I got put with this other woman who ended up to be wonderful. But she was like at the end of her career, me, and she had been teaching forever, but she was, you know, very positive and very happy. And she was the kind of teacher who took like every job that no one else wanted to do. Like she was on every committee, she was the head of everything, she was on the SAC, whatever, like every committee thing, chair, whatever, she did it. But she was super overextended and she was always like frazzled and crazy and never knew what to do with her. You know, she always had a million things that she had to do. And I guess when they said, hey, we need a mentor teacher, she was like, okay, I'll do it. It was one of those things. So I was in kind of an interesting situation when I did my student teaching. The college that I went to partnered with like a experimental sort of elementary school down here. And there were 2 elementary schools right next to each other. And my college sent like 9 or 10 of us to each elementary school. So we had a bunch of student teachers at the same time at both schools. And you know, we would get together and talk about what was going on. It was good. It was nice to have that companionship and have other people in the halls that like were also doing their student teaching. So anyway, I ended up in this class and this woman, God bless her, she was pulled in a million different directions. And then like a few days or maybe a week or so after I got there, she went out for cataract surgery. So I was like on my own already. So they called in a sub, but I mean, the sub wasn't ready to be my mentor teacher or anything. So it was kind of a rocky experience. My class that I was working with was a 3rd grade class. I still remember one of the kids' names, Danny. So if I can picture Danny almost 30 years later, you know, he was a handful. And it was a class, but I also had an Ian, he was sweet, and a few other kids. I can actually still remember their names. And there was a lot of high profile parents in that class and it was just like crazy in there. It was crazy. And there was like all kinds of behaviors and all kinds of stuff going on. And she was in and out, she was there, she wasn't. And there was supposed to be a very like structured, you know, pattern of how you took over the class. Like you would do a lesson and then you would do like a day or a half a day or whatever it was and build up to the point where after a few weeks, like you had the class the whole day and they would like watch you and give you feedback on how you were doing and all that stuff. Well, I didn't have that because she was in, out, all over, having surgery, you know, whatever, substitutes. And I remember distinctly walking the kids to an assembly one day. And I was just like, oh, you know, what do I know? I didn't know what I was doing. I was walking the kids to an assembly and there was like the name of the school was like say the school was, whatever, Inglewood. I don't know where I got that from. The Inglewood line or whatever. I don't know why I'm not just saying the name of the school was Nova. It's not like a big deal. Nova is where I started. And it was like the Nova line. And all the kids were very, in the hall, they were supposed to be super quiet because at that time, all the doors were open all the time. So all your doors were open to the hallway, which I know sounds crazy now, but propped wide open. So when we were in the hallway, we had to be quiet because, we were passing other classes, whatever. Anyway, my class was a nightmare. I didn't know what I was doing. And I remember walking to the assembly. I couldn't get them to be quiet, and the teacher wasn't there. I had a sub, and I just was crying. I was like, this is not going to work. Like, this is not going to work. Like, I can't do this. This is crazy. And so I guess I caught the eye of, at the time they were called generalists. I guess it's like a curriculum specialist now, which some of us don't even have that, but she was the primary generalist. She was the sweetest lady ever. And she kind of caught my eye, and she was like, why don't you come with me and we'll get the kids to we'll get the kids to the assembly. So she ends up taking me into the principal's office, and I was like, oh my God, here we go. They're going to call my college. They're going to pull my whole thing, and it's over, and I'm going to have to be, I don't know, whatever. I'm going to go work at Winn-Dixie. And the principal sat down with me and this generalist, the sweetest woman, and they said, hey, we know you're in a bad situation. We know that this isn't what was supposed to happen. We know you're not getting the help you need. We're going to see what we could do about getting you moved to another class so you could have the experience that you were supposed to have. And I thought that was just so nice of them to offer that. Don't ask me what happened or what came over me, but I said no. I was like, no, I want to stick it out. And they were both like, what? And I said, no, I want to finish what I started. I want to stick it out with this class. And they were both like, okay, but this isn't the right experience. You're not going to learn what you're supposed to learn or whatever. And I was like, I just feel like I need to stay where I am, and I need to figure out how to make it work. So I'm not that person. I don't know what happened. But I guess it was the thought of like having to start all over. I didn't know how it was going to work. I was there with all my friends, and like they were having a good experience, and I was going to have to like start all over and be on a different timeline. And I think I just wanted to like power through it, get it over, So that's what I did. And then like while I was there, I met my husband. And we were just friends for a long time, but me and a couple of the other student teachers would go into his room. We had like this weird schedule. Like we had to be there. I think we had to be there 8:15. The kids didn't come until 9:45. So all of our staff meetings and committee meetings and all of that stuff were in the morning. And then and if you didn't have that, then you had like this big chunk of time in the morning to do stuff. And then in the afternoon, the kids left at 2:45, I think, or 3:45, or no, 3:45. Or 3:15, I don't know, whatever time they left, say 3:30, we left at 3:45, like we left right after them. I don't even remember the timeline now, but whatever, doesn't matter. So I didn't, I liked him. I thought he was so cute. He was so nice. He was also a student teacher to one of my friends who was going through the program. That's how we got to know each other. So there's another reason why I didn't want to like leave and maybe mess up and have to go to another school. Like I didn't know what the plan was. So anyway, long story short, I stuck it out. It worked out. It was good. And later when it was all over and we finished, it was, I guess, a couple months before the end of the school year, or maybe a month before the end. And I started subbing, and I only kind of subbed at that school because I wanted to work there. My experience there was so good. Like everyone was so positive and encouraging and helpful. And that guy was there who I ended up marrying. And I just wanted to be around him and those people. And it was just like, it felt like home, I couldn't imagine working anywhere else. And I remember going to their end of the year party and everything. And I just felt like I had made so many friends there. Just felt like I belonged there. And then lo and behold, I was offered a job there. And that was a big deal because at the time when I graduated and teachers were looking for a job, there were no jobs. It was really, really hard to find a job. It was a very different climate back then. It was a very different teaching situation. It was a whole different world. I mean, I'd need a Venn diagram as big as this room to show the differences between then and now. But it was a whole different world at that time. And it was super hard to find a job. A lot of my friends didn't find a job right away, had to sub or went into a different field or had to wait a whole year. So I guess because I did what I did and I didn't give up and I stuck it out and I stayed there and I kept my face, you know, right there all the time, when a position came open, they hired me. And it was for 5th grade dropout prevention. So here I was, newer than new, teaching 5th grade dropout prevention. So I had in my class of like, I think I had a smaller amount of kids, I remember that, than the norm. And I also had some help, so I had like an aide for part of the time. And these kids were, you know, in 5th grade and they were like 13, 14 years old, and they were behavior problems. They were in and out of like different behavior programs. They were, I can tell you stories upon stories about those kids, but we made it a good year. I ended up starting a junior chamber of commerce with them where they held meetings and they kept notes and they ran the meeting, and like, I forget what it's called now because I didn't do it, haven't done it in a million years, but like there's a name for when you run a meeting and you say, I second it or whatever. They did all that. We had committees where, they would go out on one day a week and do their committee work. So like if you were on like the beautification committee, I had them hooked up with the janitor, and he would take them under his wing and take them around the school and see what he did all day, and they would help him. And I had some doing like clerical. They would go and be like teachers helpers in other classrooms. I forget, we had like 5 or 6 different committees. So they would go out on this one day for a couple hours a day, do their committee work, and then they would come back and we would meet in our like meeting, and they would take minutes, and it was like a whole thing, and it was kind of amazing. And then that year I also, like, our textbooks were like 500 years old. They were awful. My kids couldn't read them anyway. So one day I got this thing in the mail or something about using the newspaper for education, and they had made, that goes along with the newspaper, these like little activity booklets. So I was like, wow, let's do this. And I found so many cool things to do with the newspaper. And then I guess because I was doing that, my principal noticed and recommended me or nominated me for like the teacher of the year through the Miami Herald. And I won my first year of teaching dropout prevention. I was teacher of the year for Miami Herald. I still have the little crystal apple. It's here in my classroom somewhere. So what do you know about that? I peaked really, really soon. It's all been downhill from there. No, it's not, but maybe a little bit. So anyway, that's a little recap of my student teaching and my first year of teaching. It was interesting. I did stay in dropout prevention for about 3 years. I kind of did some shifting. I think I went to 4th grade, and then I was a dropout prevention support specialist for 1 year. And then the next year, I think they did away with the program. So then I went a whole different direction, which I can talk about another time. But I don't know. I wasn't sure what to talk about today, but that was kind of interesting, I think. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, we're still carpooling. It's working out fine. But today's one of those days. Like, I have an appointment at 4, so I had to rush home and get my husband home, then get the car, and then get back to the appointment. And I kind of hate that. And I wish I could cancel, but I already canceled once and rescheduled. So I'm going to sign off and go. All right. Hope you guys have fantastic whatever today is, and I'll see you soon. Bye.